Howdy, everyone. Tad Stevens on the Micro Success Secrets podcast, where we focus on business psychology and marketing and how you can use that in your business daily and long term. Today, I'm talking with Tom Matzen, who is a two-time international best-selling author and seminar presenter that has shared his message of business success and failure with more than 100,000 people on 4 continents. He has been interviewed in Success, Inc., Entrepreneur, on USA Today, the Wall Street Journal, and literally hundreds of radio and TV stations across North America. More importantly, his personal coaching clients have generated more than 100 million in sales in dozens of industries. As a speaker, he's fun, engaging, and filled with real-world stories of success and failure. Tom, welcome to the show, and let me know if I missed anything.
Yeah, that sounds great. An intro my mom would be proud of. Thanks, Tad. Super excited to be here and looking forward to our chat.
All right, well, let's get started. I like starting with this question because it kind of sets the stage and lets everybody know that we're all human, and we struggle sometimes with situations like this. So pretend you're in a time machine and you can go back in time and you can change one business decision or life decision. Can be one or the other or both, but you can change one. You can actually change one. First, would you change it if you could? And if you would change it, what would you change it to?
Oh, that's super easy. My biggest, boldest flop, as you know, I've made and lost millions over the years multiple times. But my biggest flop was a company we took public on the Toronto Stock Exchange. We had worked on it for 7 years, and we did what they call as an RTO, reverse takeover. And in the process of doing that, we hired a CEO to take over that had public company experience because I didn't have that. And I knew, these are the shark-filled waters and you need someone that can survive in that environment. So we hired an agency. They found 625 candidates. Our board narrowed it down to, they narrowed it down to a bunch. Then our board narrowed it down to a dozen. We interviewed the 12. We narrowed it down to 2, the top 2 candidates. And lo and behold, both wanted the job, which was amazing because they were way overqualified. And the first place guy, I won't tell you his name because when you hear the story, you'll know why. The first place guy was so overqualified, but man, oh man, he had experience. And he was a full-on shark. And you know my model of dolphins, sharks, and carp.
Yep.
Dolphins are the friendly team players. Sharks are the kill or be killed. Carp are the ones getting eaten by the sharks all the time. And so my wife at the time, now ex-wife, in part because of this story, said, you can't put him in place. He's a shark. He's going to, there's no way. This is terrible. No way. We said, we know he's a shark. We're doing it on purpose. We want someone who can defend us. Well, he got in there. We were public shortly thereafter. I looked at my stock. You know how you look at the price of your stock, and even though it's escrowed and you can't sell it, you multiply by the number of shares. And that morning I was worth $21 million, just my stock. And we were just beginning to lift off. In 6 months, I was worth 10 million in debt. From 21 million in an IPO to 10 million in debt in 6 easy months. Yes, the book will be out sometime soon. And what turns out this shark was actually just biding his time. He was closing a major deal with an investment bank to buy Bennigan's, a large restaurant chain. And the deal he had with us was he wouldn't take any salary except for money he brought in. He asked me to step down as chairman of the board in addition to CEO, which was 2 years ahead of schedule. And I'm like, okay, it'll help him get it done. Well, it turns out he did that so he could redo his contract without anyone knowing. He then drained the till 1 month, so we couldn't file the quarterly filings, and we were delisted. And we were frozen. As soon as you're frozen, you can't raise money as a public company. We were delisted shortly after, went into receivership, lost it all, and it was a massive, massive drama situation. And the reason I would change it, normally, I liked your sophisticated part of the question. Would you change it? Normally, my answer is no, because you learn from your mistakes more than from your wins. We already knew he was a shark. We already knew that. So it's not like I learned, don't hire a shark. No, we consciously pursued it. The reason I would change it is that hundreds and hundreds of investors got burned, and franchisees got burned, and vendors got burned in that process. As did my wife and I. We lost all of our life savings in the process too. And that's why I would redo it, because It was such a great idea, such a great concept. We'd worked on it for years. So many lives were dependent on it. I'm grateful where I am today. I wouldn't be here doing what I'm doing now had it not failed.
Mm-hmm.
So that part of it, you definitely don't want to redo history and things like that. But because so many people got burned, I would do that in a heartbeat. The second alternative was a dolphin with massive experience, but literally wasn't a shark. And so we picked the shark over the dolphin. And had we picked the dolphin, we probably would have had 1,000 locations today. And my stock would be worth about 2 or 3 billion, frankly. So I don't even want to do the math with today's valuation.
Right.
I don't even want to do the math, what it would have happened on that. But it was a good lesson and a great experience. And yeah, good question, Tad.
Okay.
Thank you for reliving the drama of that. That's just perfect.
Then the next one relates is if you could go back in time and you could look at one decision you made that was super positive. It's one of those decisions where you look at everything before and after it. It's a dividing line kind of thing.
Right.
Do you have one of those?
Yeah, a lot of those, but as in I'd want to redo it or what in terms of?
No, just like if you look back and you say, you made this decision and it was turned out just super positive.
Oh, yeah. Got it. Yeah. The business I'm in 6 years in, started from an interview, not unlike this. I was doing an interview for a summit on scale. Frank Bria, the author of the book Scale, was doing this summit, interviewing different speakers. I was talking about risk reversal. As you know, that's one of the things I believe in, guaranteeing results. And after the call, we were in the green room debriefing and going through it all. And I said, Frank, I said, I still don't understand scale. I don't get it. Like we just launched this product initiative and we got our butts handed to us. And we started talking about what he defines as scale.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized his definition of scale, most people think scale is grow. I'm going to scale my business. Oh, that means you're going to grow your business. That's not scale. I now know. Then I didn't know. Scale, as Frank defines it, is you bring a new client on, no additional work for you. Maybe for your team, but not for you. That's in the service information world. That's the definition of scale Frank uses. We launched a business based on that discussion that led to what we're doing today that have impacted hundreds and hundreds of entrepreneurs' lives and thousands of clients by extension. And that never would have happened had I not done that interview and then afterwards been open about a problem that was happening. So entrepreneurs out there, especially those that are growing, if you're shooting for your first 100,000 or your first million or your first 10 million, the more transparent you can be with people you trust, the faster you're going to get there. The faster you're going to get there. And I've been fortunate for years. I've been fully transparent about good, bad, and ugly. We've talked on and off over the years. I've been very transparent about the ugly or the good, because I think we learn lessons from both, right? We learn lessons from both. And certainly as an entrepreneur, if you want to flourish, you better learn lessons from the mistakes that are made along the way as well, not just the wins.
Absolutely. And for me anyway, I think some of my more important lessons have come from those.
Totally. In fact, I don't think there's an entrepreneur out there who on reflection wouldn't say the best lessons came from mistakes.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's what I want people to hear in this show is that because a lot of the people I talked to said, oh, I messed this up. Well, yeah. Okay. So what'd you learn? Yeah. What are you doing tomorrow? And just keep going. But a lot of people beat themselves up. And that's part of what the show is about, is that's normal. I mean, stuff happens. Just that's the way it is day in, day out. So
and in fact, if you're not failing, you're not growing. I mean, truly, genuinely, right? You're only, I mean, it's a trite phrase, but it's so true. You're only a failure if you fail to learn from that particular incident.
Oh, and I used to tell this to my kids. They won't listen to it anymore. But if any are any Batman franchise fans of the movies, the one, what was it? Batman Begins, where it says, "Why do we fall? So that we can get back up." My kids have heard that so many times. They're, shut up, Dad. I don't want to hear it anymore. But like you said, it's trite, but it's true.
Yeah.
It works.
Yeah. There's no such thing as this for most entrepreneurs. It's this, right?
Yeah.
It's up and down, up and down, up and down. And I think part of the game is to learn how to shorten the downs, not eliminate the downs, but learn how to shorten the downs. And that's an acquired skill. listen into this. If you're suffering a down right now as you're listening in here, which is maybe why you're listening to a podcast, because right, you're in a funk and you want to snap out of it. First off, good for you for even recognizing it. And second, realize it's not about eliminating the downs. I thought so for the first 10 years of business. Oh, I'm going to eliminate. No, you're not. You're not, right? They're still going to have the ups and downs. What you want to do is shorten the down. You want to bounce back faster. It has been years since a down has really taken the wind out of my sails. And that was getting divorced. It took the wind out of my sails for 6 full months. I didn't realize it till 5.5 months in. And then I was like, holy cow. But in business ups and downs now, they're measured in hours for me. Hours, not weeks or months, hours, because I'm so trained to recognize it, embrace it. And that's the other part. Embrace the downs. Yeah, embrace them. Right? You gotta. There's a saying from Heinzman Pianos: out of great tension comes harmony. Right? Pretty good for a piano maker.
That's pretty good. No, that's a good one. I like that one.
But it's also out of life. Right? The tension. I mean, as we record this, we're going into the summer. The Olympics are back. Right? Well, guess what's going to happen? World records are going to fall like crazy that haven't been broken for the last couple of years. Why? Because out of great tension comes harmony. Right? The tension channeled right is incredibly good. And for entrepreneurs, same thing. Breaking records at the Olympics. Well, if you're an entrepreneur and you've never done $1 million in sales, and you have your first $1 million in sales year, you're breaking your own records.
Absolutely.
Right? You're breaking your own records. So definitely embrace the downs and then bounce back hard.
Super. So if you could go back and you could look at another decision, we've looked at, one you would change, one that turned out super positive. Do you have one that's the scariest that you went through?
Scariest. I would have to say no. And the reason is I was fortunate early in my career to work for Dale Carnegie Training. Okay. And Dale Carnegie, among other things, taught me to stretch outside my comfort zone. So what was scary as a young person, and I was, this time I started with them when I was 22, 23. So I'm talking about when I was 16, what was scary, very quickly in my 20s became not scary. So I was trained to stretch my comfort zone. That doesn't mean there wasn't anxiety. I remember the first time I spoke in front of 1,000 people on a stage.
Yeah.
Right? There's nervous anxiety. Elvis was nervous before his last performance, and he performed for his whole life. Right? So the goal, we used to say this in Dale Carnegie, the goal is to not get rid of the butterflies. The goal is to get them to fly in formation. So you're in control of it, right? You're in control of that process. So for me, that's what happened. So I can genuinely say, no, scary was never part of it. I never pursued illegal things. I never imported drugs or any things where you literally could be scared and feared for your life. I was in the Navy Reserves. I did serve my country for 4 years that way. But even in that scenario, on board ships, you're not really confronting any enemy. If you see the enemy on board a Navy ship, you're in big trouble, man.
You're too close. Yeah.
You're way too close at that point. So I was fortunate that wasn't a scenario for me. I've seen it happen with a lot of other people, but that was not one.
Okay. So, and maybe this helps in that vein for a lot of people, is how do you get through tough decisions then? Okay, they're not scary, but we come up as entrepreneurs. That's part of our day in, day out. I mean, making decisions, and some of them stick people. They get stuck. They don't want to do it. They put it off. They go, they put something else in front of it. Do you have a way or a method or tips that you get through those?
I have a killer process that I learned early on, and now it's just subconscious. I don't even think about it until someone asks me this question, and then I bring it up. And it's so simple and yet so profound. Okay. Most decisions, when you look at them, have either a neutral or a negative, or neutral or positive consequence. Very rarely is, when you're looking at an option, very rarely do you have all three of those both directions. Very rarely. In fact, I can't, maybe on one hand, I could count the number of times in my life where I've had decisions like that, where truly it could be awesome, neutral, or terrible on either direction. Almost always, if you think about it, it's either neutral or bad, or it's neutral or good. I'll give you a simple example, naming your business, naming your company, right?
Mm-hmm.
Names really aren't going to determine whether you make money in most businesses. You know that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Names really, I mean, you work with chartered accountants all the time, CPAs, right? Does the name of their business affect their success? No. They got the most boring names in any industry on the planet, except for maybe lawyers, right?
Right.
Johnson and Smith. Oh, whoa, way to go. What a creative name for your business. And you're Johnson and you're Smith. How'd you figure that out? Right. So the usually, like, a name is a good example. A bad name, will it hurt your business? No, it's either neutral, generally speaking, it's neutral, or it could help if you had a good name.
Right.
And so when you're looking at those choices, that's how I like to separate it. Now, there is a more sophisticated variation of that, where you look and say, what are all of the known knowns, like all of the outcomes that are there, and what are the possible outcomes that are there, and you list them all, and you look at that. If you're looking at more complex decisions, right, absolutes and desirables, those lists come down to, what are the absolutes that must be included in this decision, what are the desirables that must be included in this decision, right? If you're moving and you want to find a new place, right? When I was young, I would move every 6 months. I just wanted to learn different parts of the city I lived in. It was a conscious strategy.
Yeah, I remember those
yeah,
years.
Right. You're young. You didn't care. Let's do it. Well,
throw it in the car and go. Yeah.
One of the absolutes was a dishwasher. I just absolutely had to have a place with a dishwasher. One of my desirables was a fireplace. I love it. It's cool, but I'm not going to pick a place or not pick it because it didn't have a fireplace.
Right.
So there's an example. You create lists and do that. Same thing happens in business, right? You come up with your criteria. Now we use a weighted average matrix that I learned from the senior VP of planning at Intel on how to rank things with multivariables, but it's the same basic idea. What are the essentials the decision must have, and what are the variables? And part of that is when you're starting a new venture or a new division or a new business or a new product line, what's the worst that can happen? Like, you need to analyze that.
Yeah.
Right. If you go down this path, what's the worst that can possibly happen? As we record this, I'm launching a brand new strategic partnership in 13 days. The worst that can possibly happen is we spend 6 months and don't make a lot of money. That's literally the worst. And given what we're doing and what he does and what we do and how we're combining it, we know that the worst is probably $500,000 worth of business. The best is creating at least 8 figures of revenue, if not 9, in the next 3 years. So it's got tremendous upside, very little downside. It took us together, the two of us, 25 minutes to decide to do the partnership. 25 minutes, right? And it could be one of the biggest cash flow decisions of our business in the last 6 years. Why? Because those criteria were so clear. So when you're making complex decisions, the advice I would give is figure out your criteria for decision making. Then it's so much easier to decide. Right? Like, for example, for many entrepreneurs, if they're looking at marketing initiatives, let's talk about that because some near and dear to your heart and mine, right? Does it produce cash quickly? Well, that should be one of the criteria, right? Yeah. Startups are not supposed to lose money beyond the beginning phase, right? As a friend of mine once said, startups are not a 3-year plan. Startups, it should be a temporary phase where you're losing money. So if you're looking at a marketing strategy, right, can it produce positive cash flow quickly? Should be one of the criteria, not the only criteria, but it should be one, right? Yeah. It should be one of the criteria. And so when you list your key criteria, and I recommend no more than 5 if you're looking at a complex decision, because you even if you prioritize the 5, it's still pretty complex.
Right.
And if you want to involve partners or other decision makers, it can be a fairly big lift. But having said that, if you know your criteria, it's so much easier. So much easier.
Super.
That makes sense.
That is a great way. I'm sorry. Say what?
Does that make sense to you, Tab?
Totally. And I'd love to get into more of that, maybe on another show sometime, because that is something I see pop up all the time.
Did you ever see our strategic planning matrix that we use for that? I don't know
that I've ever seen that.
We should do an entire show on that topic because your audience will absolutely love it. I got this from a technical assistant to the senior VP of planning for Intel as to how they prioritize and plan a $1 billion company with 20% compounded annual growth for more than a decade.
I
I
would
mean,
love to do that, because
and-
that is one thing that I see time and time again is they don't know how to make decisions. I mean, we're not trained to do that in school,
no,
hardly
about
anywhere.
20. My experience is about 20% of people are. All right. Because they're able to, they're either taught that way or they come from a world where they're analyzing it or they're trained in it, career wise. But the 80%, man, oh man. And what happens as a result? You're throwing darts.
Or you're just going in circles or
Yeah, you're
spirals
spinning a dial.
yeah,
Okay, let's
yeah.
go. What the heck? Let's try it. Right.
Okay,
That's not a
I will
decision.
send you a note on that, and if we can do that, I would love to do that. I'd love to
Yeah,
help
that'd
you.
be great. That'd be great. Because what we did is we took that complex tool and then modified it for entrepreneurial decision making.
Oh,
And
even better. Yeah.
yeah. I'll make sure we got a copy available. We can share to people when we do that.
Okay.
Stay tuned, everyone. Stay tuned.
All
Come
right.
on back.
Part 2 coming up. Anyway, back to this.
Mhm.
We've gone kind of long on this, which is great. Love the stuff that you've been sharing. But I want to close with one question that I always ask people.
7. Oh no, wait for the question. Wait.
Great. Why do you do what you do? Why do you get out of bed in the morning? I mean, I got a feeling just talking to you over the years that, money's important and you like being successful, but there's more to it.
Yeah, very much. I think the purpose, the meaning, let me rephrase this. I think the meaning of life is to find your calling and live it to its fullest.
Okay.
I'm fortunate that my calling is helping entrepreneurs package their wisdom and knowledge and take it to the world, creating global movements and 7 and 8 figure businesses. In this phase of my life, I've had 3 phases as an entrepreneur over the last 37 and a half years. This phase, that's my calling. And so for me, the purpose of life is to find your calling and live it to its fullest. For those of us that are blessed or cursed to be entrepreneurs, once you find it, it's our obligation to live that to its fullest. And so for me, it truly is not work. I love it. I'll do it until they put me in a box and sprinkle my ashes at sea, whatever the case may be, because I absolutely love and adore it. And it's also, happens to be a perfect combination of all the skills I've learned in the non-online world for more than a decade. You and I both share that in common. Bricks and mortar experience with real businesses is different and the same as online. Right? There's elements that are completely different. I remember I think I opened up 187 coffee bars. Right. And the cheapest one we ever built was $50,000. Most were around 100,000. Some were 250. One was $600,000, probably the most expensive one. And then I see people in the online world going, $2,000 to launch my business. Oh my God. And I'm like, yeah, compared to what?
Exactly. What? Yeah.
Right. So, for me, I'm blessed to have found that calling early and nurtured it, and it changed and adjusted over time, as it will for everyone tuning in. Right. It's not carved in marble from the mount for most of us. It changes. We adjust, we adapt, we go through phases. But once you find it, you find something where I mean, we're recording this 6 a.m. on the West Coast. Right. And people are like, you're up early. Like, that's really early. No, I'm up at 4. I got stuff to do. Like, let's go. Life is ready to be seized. Right. You're an early riser. Same thing. Let's do that. And so when you're doing what you love, that's not work. That's fun.
That's why you get up, or that for me anyway. That's why I get up at 5 or 4 sometimes, not all the time, but 5. Because if I didn't have something to go to, I don't think I'd get up at 5 in the morning.
Did your kids ever have to be woken up early for Christmas morning? I mean, seriously, no.
Right.
Because they are so excited about the day. Well,
all you got to do is make a noise and they're just
boom. You find your calling, you're living your calling, and you want to get up every day and do that. So yeah, for me, I think that's the key.
All right. Super. Time to wrap up. Really appreciate everything you shared. Awesome stuff. Is there anything that you want to close with? Anything you want to leave the listeners and viewers they can take with them?
Given the focus on micro businesses, you're in the space of going from small business to entrepreneur, And I spent a lot of time helping people do that over a decade, 10,000 plus businesses. And I can tell you the single most important shift that I learned and then taught I learned from Michael Gerber when I was an E-Myth mastery coach. And that is the difference of working in your business or on your business. The more time you can schedule working on your business, the sooner you can make those shifts. So listening to this podcast or video is one of the ways you're working on your business, right? You're thinking about how to improve what you're doing.
Right.
Or you're distracted and you just want to stop working for a sec and you need a break.
Yeah.
Let's not assume everyone's doing it smart. Maybe some of you just having a beer. Cheers. All right. So, but for most of you, you're working on your business when you watch or listen to a video or podcast. Well, the more time you can schedule that in, the faster you can figure out all the key strategic changes you make. The tactics are easy when you know the strategy.
Yeah.
Right? You know this. You build funnels like crazy, right? Funnels are super easy if you know what game you're playing. Funnels never work if you don't know what game you're playing.
Absolutely.
Right? They're a money-sucking machine if you don't know what game you're playing. But if you know what game you're playing, you can make funnels work because it's easy to adjust and split test because you know that's my audience. That's how I'm going to help them.
Because you've got, and listen to this, people. Listen to what he's saying, because I can't tell you how many people say, oh, I'll get a funnel, I'll be successful. No, the funnel is just the tool. The funnel is after. You got to have the strategy, that what you're talking about first. And I love that you said it, and I love that you're closing with it, because that hits my audience and in my niche super perfect.
Love it.
Okay. Tom, thanks again very much. Really appreciate you taking the time, sharing. Everybody else, thanks for listening. Really appreciate your time and listening in. And please let us know any comments, suggestions, questions you have. Have a safe and productive week and be the very, very best at whatever it is that you're doing. Until next time, this is Tad Stevens with Micro Success Secrets. Bye for now.